Hi folks, welcome back to the Horde. So it's about 2 o'clock. It's December 30th, Tuesday, and inside the Horde it's about 58.3 degrees, which is why I'm inside the Horde, because the wife doesn't like it this cold. Outside, I don't know, it's somewhere around 30, I guess. And there's outside. What's going on is the pellet stove has been noisy for a while, and it's time to do something about it. And here's the situation. I don't know if you guys have ever looked at pellet stoves. This is an old timer. This is back from 1996. I installed it in the winter of 96. So this is what, the 18th winter on it or something like that. 18th, 19th winter. So been a good stove. It has 3 motors in it. The one I'm going to change here is for the fire. What it does is it maintains a draft through the burn pot, through the pellet burn pot, which is, you know, how you move the fresh air to the pellets and the exhaust up the chimney. The second motor in it, might as well show you the whole bit here whilst I'm here. The second motor is this guy, and what that does is it moves the hot air that comes out those holes right along the front. And the third motor is back there. Right here, right, I think you guys could see it, casting a shadow there with a light shining, and that one feeds the pellets into the burn pot, which is what burns, so, and creates your heat. So pellets by the auger motor, fire because of the draft, hot motor, combustion motor, let's call it. And lastly, the motor that circulates the hot air through the room, right? No use having a red hot stove and all the heat's at the stove and nothing goes elsewhere. So far this stove has consumed, it's on the second blower motor. There's the first one. And what happened is the blower motor was still working, but the bearings had gotten loose enough where these cages would move around a little bit, and then they'd hit the side and they make a clanging sound, cling, 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 cling. And very annoying while you're trying to watch TV or teach piano to have the stove do that. And it might do it for 10 seconds, might do it for 2 minutes, might do it until you walk up to the stove, open the side of it, and kind of rearrange those cage fans there, those cages. What happens with these motors over time, like when I spin this, right, I think you guys could see through there. Yeah, you can see that it's spinning, right? See how long that was able to spin? Now, look how long this one could spin. Just over time, they get clogged up. They kind of get all grungy down there. This one's been cleaned a couple of times, but even with that, the bearings begin to sing. They kind of squeal a little. I'm not going to throw this motor away quite yet. I'm going to keep it a little longer. When it comes to replacing the motor, you could either replace the whole assembly or buy just the motor. It's easier for me to buy the entire assembly because the motor does not come with this little fan on top, does not come with that blade assembly, does not come with this plate, and does not come with the upper fan. So when I look at it, I wasn't thinking that I was going to be able to take all those pieces off, successfully get them on the fan, because if you break anything, like you break the fin off of this thing, you're kind of screwed. What's interesting is they didn't sell just the little fan, this little piece by itself. They sell this gasket, and they want $30 for it. They don't sell the individual rotors by themselves. So you're kind of stuck paying like $200 for literally just the motor, and you got to hope that you can move all this other stuff over without breaking anything, including the little plate, right? I also needed a gasket, which they wanted another $20 for, so it was $200 for that, or like $300 for the whole assembly. And I just pick up this thing here, drop it in the hole with that gasket on the stove, jam this thing back on, and we're all happy. Looks like it goes on that way. Just jam that thing on, plug the 2 wires in, and we're all good. This is one of those jobs I hate, and the reason why is because that's where the fan is, and you gotta kind of bend and twist and you know, groan and cry to put it in that hole. You can see the hole there, right? The 2 red wires above it. So it's one of those ugly, twisty type jobs that you gotta do, and I don't enjoy doing it much. When it comes to, when I bought this stove originally, I think it was like $1,400. To replace it, delivered now, is like $2,400. I burn about, this thing runs pretty nearly continually for 110, 120 days every winter, 24 hours a day, almost 7 days a week. Occasionally, like it was pretty warm, so it just got a couple of days off. But it actually got cold in November, so it actually ran for a couple weeks in November continuously without so figure once again, it probably runs pretty nearly 120 days, and a lot of those I typically get 3-4 days out of it before I have to open it up and vacuum it out. I use a rigid shop vac to vacuum it out. Obviously I let it cool off because I don't want to suck in hot ashes and melt my shop vac or set my shop vac ablaze, or perhaps the dust, given that it's really fine dust. If you suck fire in, it might just explode. Don't be needing to do that. To keep from blowing dust throughout the room, I take the filter that's on there and I cover it with a vacuum cleaner bag, kind of as good a vacuum cleaner bag as I can, and I rubber band it such that no air gets around the vacuum cleaner bag, because if you have the slightest little hole, right, as you're trying to vacuum out the stove, it'll pull the dust, more dust through the hole, right, where the filter is and where you don't have the vacuum cleaner bag, and it'll blow it throughout the room. And the tiniest little hole it'll throw enough dust in this room that the room will look like you had a fire in it. It will literally fog this room, and I know that because I've done that. So that's another trick that I use. When it's time to clean the stove out, I turn it off. It takes 4 hours or so for the stove to cool off enough that I can vacuum it without worrying about melting anything. What's interesting though is if I lean on the masonry here when I'm cleaning out the stove, especially if the stove's been lit for a few days. The masonry is warm. It's warm to the touch. All of this and this, right? It's not like, oh, I'm going to burn myself hot, but it's all, nice and warm. If the stove is running, you could touch the top of this stove and you could touch both sides, right? No problem. If you touch, you could kind of touch here, though it's uncomfortable, it's hot. If you touch the cast iron door, you'll leave your fingerprints behind, smoking, because you've just burned them off. Obviously, if you touch the glass, you'll get burned. This is one of those fireproof glass rugs. There is absolutely no reason to open the door once the stove is lit. No reason. You shouldn't do that, because you can blow some of the embers out onto the rug and set the place ablaze. Occasionally, because there's no reason to do that, I'll feel like I can't see the fire and I want to wipe the glass, so I'll get a dry paper towel, no water because you'll crack the glass, and I'll kind of give the glass a quick wipe in a couple of spots, so I can, there's holes in the soot and I could watch it burn. Once again, smart, no. Try not to do that. Don't do what I do. Do as I say. Don't do that. But been a good stove. I was going to replace it this year. I have the money I put aside to replace it this year. But given some stuff at work and some other junk going on and all that, I'm trying to get another year out of it. So instead of replacing it, I have to put this like $300 blower. I think the blower was like $299 or something like that, and then they hit me with tax and $40 shipping. So it's a $350 blower. If I bought just a fan motor, it would have been $199 plus $40 plus tax. So basically I save around $100, or it cost me an extra $100 to buy the whole assembly. These bearings could theoretically be replaced, and that should fix things. It's a matter of finding them and getting them. And I might have found a set. I think there's a surplus place I go to, and I bought a set. And the set was cheap. They were like $2 a bearing. So I think I might have picked up. I might have picked up 6 of them. Invested that big $12. The thing is, for the bearings I bought, they're kind of unknown. I don't know how well they're going to take the heat, because that is a hot application. If you go through the manuals and all, it says, do not, and over and over and over again, do not lubricate these bearings. Do not put anything on them. They're meant to run just as they are, so don't screw with them. Now that I have a complete second spare motor, I might experiment a little bit with trying to replace them for the next time they go. This stove, for this year it's still here. I have considered using it out in the garage, using it as a heat source out in the garage. Maybe not. I also have a temptation to get a little drum of some kind and a pot, and you put some wood in the pot inside the drum, and you set up a little waste oil to drip on it while it's running. Obviously a little door to get the whole thing going, and put the wood in, the pot in, and a little stack on it for exhaust. And you set it up so that the pot's bigger than your fuel tank, the little fuel tank you're going to use just in case something crazy happens and it dumps the whole fuel tank in. You also set up the barrel, bucket, whatever you're using as the body of the stove, so that, once again, God forbid the whole thing dumps in, it doesn't leak out flaming liquid onto your garage floor to set yourself on fire. So that's something I've considered. The only thing is, back to ordinances and all that kind of crap, and insurance. God forbid anything happens, and that stove sets my garage ablaze. First people down the driveway will be the fire department and police department. And then they drop a dime on you that there's been a fire, and the zoning guy comes by to make sure that you do all your repairs properly. And at that time, he also takes note of, was there a zoning issue that set the place on fire, like having a wood stove in your garage that you have no permits for, or worse yet, a homemade oil burning stove in your garage that you have no permits for. And that probably would not go exceptionally well for me. That the first thing my insurance company would do is say, "Ha, you have an illegal stove. We're not paying the insurance claim." Though, unless the garage burned down completely, you know, the damage, I could probably get around it, right? I wouldn't run the stove unless I was right there with it. So there probably wouldn't be any real damage, once again, assuming I was there taking care of everything with the fire extinguisher. If I left it unattended, obviously it could be a total loss. And as a matter of fact, you could probably get that box truck alongside of it and the trailer alongside of that and the propane tanks in front of it, and that wood could start. And matter of fact, depending on how quickly they got here, I might even be able to get a car and a golf cart and maybe even the corner of the house engulfed. So not, you know, one doesn't want to be too silly here. So anyway, those are all my stories. This is what I'm up to today. And the reason why I'm talking to this camera and walking around in circles, because my next thing is to bend over and start trying to put that motor in. Well, actually, the next thing is to vacuum out. I can use that vacuum hose, and it actually goes up the chimney quite a ways, up the exhaust pipe. And it's good to clean that out a couple of times a year. So I'm going to do that. But it requires kind of lying down and leaning and half using my left hand to do things and using my right hand. And it's a very uncomfortable position. So I just don't look forward to doing this. Basically, it hurts when you're 55 years old, crawling around and leaning on masonry and all that. 56 years old, that kind of hurts. For you young guys, thank God you're young. Make sure you use your youth wisely, because one of two things is going to happen. You're either going to get old or you're going to leave a good-looking corpse. So let's hope you get old, but let's hope it doesn't hurt too much on your way there. Folks, I'm going to let you go because all this talking ain't getting the job done. Thank you for watching and commenting and subscribing. Remember to keep your feet down, keep your head up, and remember to enjoy all your days. Enjoy each and every one of them, because when you run out, you ain't getting no more. So, bye now.